Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. We're GabNet, and we've got you covered live 5 nights a week. First Tuesday through Friday at 9:30 Eastern, it's The Exchange.
Let's capture you. I mean, who are all these people who are watching these cooking shows? They're stoners, right? So I'm wondering, is this a program that Netflix has absorbed? I don't know, what is the purpose of Netflix making a 14-minute show? Now, aside from those 2 interesting facts about this show, the show is fucking terrible. Do not watch this show. It fucking sucks.
Tuesday through Friday at 10 Eastern, join Alex Bennett on the Ramble.
Say goodbye to the unions.
Renee, what was the decision? And then we'll go to Patrick.
It doesn't matter. Just say goodbye to the unions.
No. But I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you what was in the decision yesterday.
I'm going to look it up.
Okay, let me look it up.
Yeah, he'll go look it up at GlenBeck.com.
Tuesday through Friday at midnight, The Intersection.
Most high school boys, what have we got on our mind? Sex and girls and sex and sex and sex.
And booze and drugs.
Yeah, the Asian guys I knew in high school, I'm sure they thought that way, but perhaps they were more disciplined about it. Although there was this Japanese girl in high school that your old friend, the Black Avenger, had the hots for. Oh, my God. Be still my sake wanting to drink self.
If you like sports, we've got that too, with The Arena, Wednesday nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern.
Well, and even if you did that, it doesn't give you the right to grab your Uber driver's private. I mean, and like, what part of that to him sounded like a good idea?
Oh, she played a special song.
Finally, you can get hot and bothered on Connections at 10 p.m. Eastern Monday, and by delay Tuesday through Friday at 1 a.m. Eastern.
Now, of course, you got your Bundy barbecue. We did that here. It's gonna be cool. So we have a few of them out of the state of Florida, right? We got Dating Rawlings.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so we can look at that. That'll be fun. So, okay, I don't want to shoot the whole lot right there. No.
I'm sure Dahmer will come up somewhere.
Dahmer! Oh, yeah. He was fun. A looker, too.
Catch up on all the shows with our Weekend Flashback. All shows have the Citizen Panel, an exclusive concept of GabNet. It's new. It's daring. It's talk like you've never heard it before. Spotify has 180 million monthly users and access to 35 million songs and podcasts. Now, all those offerings are going to have to move over and make room for GabNet programming. Yes, at long last, Alex Bennett's Ramble, Damian Chaplin's Exchange, Jack Bishop's The Intersection, and even the franchise MC's Arena and Michael Snyder's weekly movie reviews will be fighting for space on this massive platform. Each day, the programs are updated, so you can hear them on the Spotify app, available for all smartphones and game consoles. Or you can just go to Spotify on the web at Spotify.com. So, give us a shot on Spotify. There's a 35 million to 5 chance we'll get people to listen to talk like they've never heard it before. Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network.
Hey! Hey, everybody, here we are. It's the Ramble, ready to roll, to rock and ramble. Oh, I hate that. Until midnight tonight, Eastern Daylight Time, Eastern Time. We're through with daylight savings, right? Yeah. Why am I saying Eastern Daylight? I've been saying that every night. You know, once you start writing that on the checks, it's forever before you. Anyway. Hi, how are you? Glad you've joined us this evening, and I think you have joined us on a rather auspicious evening because once again we talked to someone who we formerly were married to, and tonight I think is going to be very, very special. Ladies and gentlemen, I always like doing this. Lake Oswego, Oregon is a place I am not totally familiar with, but it's right next to Portland, which I am totally familiar with. Why
are you familiar with Portland?
Well, I've been through there a few times. You know, it's Portland is the stop on the way to Seattle.
Right. Yes. It's a pretty nice town, though.
This is by the way, this is Ronnie Bennett. Let me just say that, so you know. And if you're wondering why she has the same last name I do, it's because we used to be married.
Right.
Used to be.
A long time ago.
You figured it out to be how long ago?
Well, we've known each other for 60 years. And we broke up in 1971.
60? I met you at 18. Yeah, that's about right.
Mm-hmm.
That's about right. You were at a place called the Old Town Coffee House.
Right.
And I pulled up in a car. I can't remember who was driving it at the time. You probably maybe remember.
I don't. A long time ago.
And he said, I want to pick up my friend Ronnie. So I went, okay.
Where were we going?
Yeah, huh?
Where were we going?
I have no idea, but he wanted to pick up his friend Ronnie. So you got in the back seat of the car, and I assumed that Ronnie was a guy.
Oh, and you couldn't tell by looking.
And I couldn't tell in the dark because you were kind of a tomboy at the time, and you weren't all gussied up and stuff. And then I looked over, oh, it's a woman. Oh, hi, Ronnie. Then I got, of course, my whole demeanor changed. And that's how we met, You
remember more than I do.
And you had an apartment right next door to the Old Town Coffee House.
Well, 3 doors down.
Was it 3 doors down? I thought it was right next door.
No, 3 doors down. And I worked there part-time on the weekends.
Yeah. So,
as a waitress.
Yeah. Long time ago, folks.
Yes, it was.
Back when dinosaurs ruled the earth.
Yeah, true. Yes.
I was talking to somebody. I was talking to Will Durst just before we did this thing today, although they play on 2 separate days, about the fact that when I was younger, we talk about how bad things are now. They were pretty bad back then with the McCarthy hearings and all that crap that was going on. It was Salem witch trial time.
Not quite. It was the McCarthy era was pretty awful. Maybe it was the first awful political event in our lifetime, our adult lifetime, anyway.
Lifetime, yeah. We've had them before. I mean, it's not like, folks. This may not be the worst, but it's close to it. Okay.
Now?
Yeah. Well, what I like to say is,
I don't think you can. I think it must have been a terrible time leading up to and during the Civil War. I mean, so long ago, there's nobody around to talk about having been there. But
yeah,
I don't think. I think that must have been a terrible time in the United States, and certainly the Depression.
Yeah. But I like to say that compared to Trump, Bush isn't looking that bad. And I said, come to think of it, compared to first Daddy Bush, Trump isn't that bad. In fact, compared to Nixon.
Careful there. I don't know. Maybe we should just skip comparisons.
Wait a minute, Nixon isn't that bad. And then I go even further by saying that compared to Hitler.
Now, you
Hitler
know about that rule.
That bad.
What do you think about Khashoggi?
Well, I think he's dead.
Well, I don't mean that, of course.
Yeah, I think he's been chopped up.
The political situation and what our leaders are doing about it.
The question he brings up is, do I put people at Boeing out of work? And I think.
Have you read deeper than that?
Huh? Well,
that's not really the only other choice.
Right. But I mean, I don't. I think we should cut out the arms deal. I think we should just penalize. It may not penalize them terribly because they'll go somewhere else and make a deal, but we shouldn't be doing business with them for moral purposes, for moral reasons.
Let me see if I can say this right.
I'm sure you can.
I'm not so sure that in that now infamous interview on Sunday on 60 Minutes with Leslie Stahl and the president, when he was asked about Christine Blasey Ford and what he said about her after the awful things he said about her, he said, "Oh, it doesn't matter because we won." I think that's all you have to know about this man and what he stands for. And it's the same thing as worrying about selling the arms and getting X billion of dollars, which we wouldn't anyway, but then he doesn't know that because he doesn't know a lot of things. But do you need to know anything else than those two things to know what a monster the man is?
Oh, no, believe me, you don't have to sell me on that one. You know, I mean, I can't believe that we have this man as president, that America came to this, you know. And it's kind of sad. It's very sad. It's goes without. What's the word I'm looking for here? It's terrible. It's just terrible. That's all there is to it.
Yes.
So anyway, you got some things you want to talk about?
Well, there's been an event since we did this last.
Yeah.
Which we've already discussed. I'm not going to pretend otherwise, so people watching knows that this is not the first time.
We've talked about it, right? Shall I act shocked when you say it?
You're right. Is that most people who've watched this or read my blog know that about 16 months ago I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and had the Whipple surgery, which is that an awful surgery? It takes forever to recover. But after several months of recovery, tests showed me what the doctor said to be cancer-free. And so it's been. And then this last week, a week ago, a new CAT scan showed that the cancer's back in a lung and in my peritoneum. Whoever heard of that? Whoever gets to say peritoneum?
Did you look it up to see where it is?
Well, I think it's somewhere in your abdomen. I haven't looked it up. But the difference between the last time is that this is really not treatable beyond, if I wanted, some chemotherapy that it can't kill the cancer, but it can slow the growth so that I have more healthy time until the end comes. So that's not the most wonderful news anybody ever had, right?
Right. Yeah.
The reason I do it, I know if you have to know this, is that ever since the surgery last year, my nose just gushes for no good reason now and then. And I mentioned it to a nurse at the center where I go for all my treatment. She said, lots of surgery patients say that afterwards. Nobody warned me. So, I'm laughing to hear about something else. It's not very funny. But I'm 77 years old. That's a good lifetime.
Yeah.
And I'm not, the awful irony, and I wrote this on the blog this week, the terrible irony for the moment is that I feel as healthy right now as I have at the healthiest times of my life. The only thing different from before the surgery for me is that my stamina is down and my energy is down. And even without these secondary cancers, I don't think they would ever have come up very much further than they are now. But in general, I am really feeling healthy. And so that makes this very hard to believe. I mean, I believe it. I know they're right. I'm going for appointments I need at palliative care and other things, and making the decision about the chemotherapy and so on. But I think I don't really believe. I think I don't know it yet. There's a funny balance there in the middle of, because I feel so good.
Well, if you were
if you were and then
yeah.
I know it's true, and I feel there's this heaviness, and that doesn't mean I don't have fun laughing with people and do everything that I do in life every day. But there's a little heaviness that's settled on me.
Well, what happens is, I know this is probably the case. You wake up in the morning, you open your eyes, say, it's another bright, shiny day. Oh, my God, I'm still dying.
Exactly.
But you know something, I could say...
So far, I don't remember any dreams that relate to this either.
In a less lethal way, I could say the same thing. You know, I'm 78 years old. I wake up in the morning and go, oh, my God, I'm dying. You know, I mean...
well, the difference between that old saying that we're all dying from the moment we're born, the difference between that and where I am right now is that, although it can't be exact, there is a time limit.
Yeah.
I know the difference being I know the time limit.
Yeah.
Which you don't, and I didn't before this week. And so you can pretend. I mean, I'm 77. After I started feeling so good after recovering from the surgery and having the no current cancer, you know, the doctors telling me that, is that I could pretend I was going to be here for another 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah, well...
and now I can't.
Well, now, you know, when you told me this the other day, boy, that light in the back, your face is kind of dark today, but it's okay. We can see you, so don't worry about that. When you first
forward a little bit,
yeah, well, that shine it in your face or something. But anyway, you don't have to. When you told me this the other day, there were all kinds of different emotions that went through me for the next 24, 48 hours. I mean, one of which was, you know, we were married. So in a way that makes you family, you know, yes. No matter, I mean, if I had never made friends with you again and we had never talked again, then I guess I wouldn't have to be dealing with this right now. But fortunately we did. And we've had many very good years of being friends. But because of that closeness, I was especially hit by this. And also, I mean, there's my own fear of death, my own fear of mortality that plays into this, but that would be a very selfish motive.
Doesn't be just because we can label something like that doesn't mean it isn't real, that you don't feel it.
Right, exactly. You know? And so I was kind of feeling, you know, I was putting myself in your position and so on. And all things considered, you're taking it very well.
Well, as I said, I don't think I truly believe it yet. And I'm so damned healthy. There's not a twinge of pain anymore.
Are you in the denial phase? They say there's denial, acceptance, blah, blah, blah.
But, and I'm not going to, you know, I've read that stuff a lot over the years, and particularly a lot about dying in the 15 years I've been doing that blog about what it's really like to get old. And, of course, this is part of it. Cancer is one of the diseases of age that more old people get than people of younger ages. And did you know, by the way?
You know, I wake every time I feel an ache or a pain, I say, is this what's going to get me? You know, I feel that at this point in my life, there is a natural force that it's pointing its finger at me and saying, not yet, but soon. You know, not yet, but soon. Yeah. And I keep waiting for what that thing is going to be that's going to get me. And so far...
He died of, and I can say that. Yeah. She died of cancer. You can't say anything like that yet.
Well, you know, you've got an advantage here. Like, you don't have to worry about gaining... If you gain some weight, you don't have to worry about it.
Oh, wait a minute. There's more than that.
Yeah.
For some reason, you know, all during the post-surgery and months after that, and before that, too, I was losing weight like crazy after a lifetime of taking off the same 10 or 12 pounds over and over again. And when I talked to the oncology nurse about it way back, she said that cancer and chemotherapy eat up energy faster than a healthy body. So your body's using up more calories. Eat, eat, eat. She kept telling me, eat, eat, eat. And she said, you know, she wanted me eating all this fat and all this protein that I hadn't been eating before. And I said, I don't really do that anymore. She said, you'd better, because the cancer will kill you long before the diet will. and so I'd been eating. And then after that kind of began to smooth out and I could go back to my old way of eating. And then I realized in the last 2 months, I've gained 10 or 12 pounds, which I really understand. I spent a lifetime living that way with the same 10 or 12 pounds going on and off all the time. So when we had the meeting last week to discuss what's happened, and that the chemotherapy can perhaps extend my healthy or feeling healthy life for longer than without it, she said that again, I'll have the problem during that time of losing too much weight. And I told her that I just gained this weight. She said, good, you've got a buffer. You're going to need it.
Wow. Well, as I say, it hit me profoundly. And, what it also presents to a person that isn't you is how to handle it, how to react to it, how to respond to it.
I worry about that.
How to beat.
Because I'm not going to keep it a secret. I'm not going to go out and carry a sign around, but I'm not going to keep it a secret when it comes up appropriately. And I worry about people don't ever know what to say. And so I have to figure out, and I'm working on it, figure out how to make it okay for people to know this.
Yeah.
Make it not uncomfortable anyway for them.
Right.
And I haven't quite gotten there yet, but I'm working on it.
Well, your demeanor, I think, probably does more than anything, but it's still very difficult for people to know what to say or what to do. This kind of diagnosis not only affects you, and of course it ultimately affects you, but it does affect the people around you as well.
We get to laugh, by the way, all of us.
Huh?
We get to laugh through this too.
Oh yeah. Now here's the thing: you have spent how many years now with this blog? 15 years.
With what? The blog?
Yeah.
15 years.
15 years, and it's been what it's like to get old.
And this is part of it.
And now you're writing about this, and this is part of what it's like to get old. Long after you're gone, and I hope that is longer than we believe.
We'll see.
Yeah. What you've written, which will probably stay up there, will be valuable. It'd be valuable to people as a document of somebody's life.
Well,
and how to leave it.
We'll see. We'll see what I can write. What amazed me in the first two pieces that I've written about it.
Let me just say this: if people haven't read her. It's timegoesby.net. Okay, she's a phenomenal writer, and I say that as somebody who doesn't do much reading.
You're so funny. I forgot what I was saying.
Yeah.
After the first two pieces that I wrote, it was just an outpouring of people. A lot of names I recognized from people who comment frequently, but many more names of people who've never commented. And among all of that, the number of people who have either survived cancer or are currently going through treatment or have survived treatment and are living without cancer. And I know that they're living the same way I did for most of the last year up until now, of dreading next time you have to go take the test to see if the cancer has come back. As it gets closer to that date for that scan, I anyway get quieter and more worried. And up until now, I came out feeling great. Different this time. But an amazing number of people have not only cancer, but the other diseases of age too that can be very debilitating. And one of the things I found out that fascinates me is that just in America, this isn't the world, that however they did the research on this, 40% of Americans will be diagnosed with some form of cancer before they die. And think about what that means. If it's 40%.
Now, we're including skin cancer and things like that.
Any kind of cancer. We're talking about cancer. And people do die of skin cancer, even if you don't think so. And but what's amazing about that number, 40%, is that pretty much means that every person in America has been or will be touched by cancer, if not for themselves, their husbands, their wives, their children, their grandparents, somebody, good friends, somebody near them, they are going to deal with cancer. it is 100% of us deal with it in some manner. Pretty amazing.
I'm dealing with it right now.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And
it's so by the way,
disease.
So by the way, is this audience right now? You know, because they've been watching you over these many months, a year or so, and I'm sure they've come.
That long?
I don't know when we started doing, and gotten to know you, you know, gotten to care about you, and so they're being affected by it.
Sure.
You know, so I mean,
and think about that in every.
Thanks a lot. We really
thanks
a lot. We really appreciate it.
I don't. We'll see what happens. I'll try to write. I'll try to be honest.
You've talked about something, and I don't know if it's premature to bring it up, but you talked about, to me, about the fact that in your state you do have the ability to decide when you're... Well,
I don't know. None of those phrases I don't like. You know, it's called a death with dignity law.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And a compassionate something or another law, and suicide. I'm not happy with any of those ways of, you know, quick, short description. But the point is, I took care of my mother when she was dying of cancer. I didn't do the major caregiving, but I spent some time with my father when he died of cancer. Obviously, I come by this honestly from my family.
Didn't you move to Sacramento for a time in order to take care of your mother?
Yes, 4 months to take care of my mother. And that was back in '92 when she died. But I've seen what happens, you know, and when symptoms start appearing, it's never going to get better. It's only going to get worse. And when I talked to the oncology nurse last week, and I brought up that law here, which there are really only 2 requirements in Oregon. A doctor has to certify that you have less than 6 months to live, and you are lucid enough to sign the papers and understand what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And I certainly will do that. I'm reserving the right to change my mind, but I can't imagine why I would. And when I talked to the oncology nurse about that down the line, I said, you know, what I want to know is, how do you know when is the right time? Now it's time. She said in her experience, and this is a woman, 60, maybe early 60s, she's been doing this all her life. She said, people know when the time has come. So I'm relying on that. She's got a lot more experience than I do.
Well, you know, for me, it would be a difficult thing to do, but I suppose if you get to the point where you're in a certain amount of pain that you know is not going to mitigate itself, that it's not going to get better, I think that's the time you probably then go, sounds like a good idea. Yeah. You know, but let's not think about that right now. Let's think.
I have to decide, or something that will come up.
You don't have to decide it. You don't have to decide it today. You don't have to decide anything. All you have to decide about is
thinking about it goes into the decision, you know. And I'll discuss it more with the palliative care people and with the nurse and doctors and stuff.
Well, here's my suggestion to you, among other things, in the next couple of years that you have here. Listen, I'm hoping, you know, that you outlive me. Okay. But that doesn't look like it's going to happen that way. But the point I'm making is that, you know, you can do a lot of things that are really positive in your life, like max out your credit cards.
Not really. Really.
I mean, do you have anybody who's going to have to pay them off once you're gone?
Yes, there is, and so it's not possible. But I stopped because I've been very diligent for 6 or 7 years about my exercises 5 days a week. As soon as they told me, I quit. That's it. Done with that. I hate exercising. So
I do
I'm done
too.
with that.
I do too.
And somebody mentioned on my blog that I will probably be relieved to seeing whatever the end game of the Trump era is. And actually, I've been saying since 2015.
Your first thought to me.
Listen to me. I will be very pissed if I die before we see the end of the Trump administration. So I am pissed already.
You have a reason to live.
we could look at it that
No,
way.
it was funny because about the second or third thing you said to me when you first told me this was, I won't be here to see how the Trump thing resolves itself,
Everything comes to, it may not feel like it right now, but eventually everything comes to an end. I want to know how it happens with Trump. And I won't be here probably.
Well, listen, we'll hold a seance and get the word to you. Okay?
Okay, knock, knock, knock.
I like that we can laugh about this,
What else? The thing is, if you feel good, you're doing things you enjoy. Oh, by the way, I can go back to eating all the foods I like because I got to keep my weight up. So all the things that are bad for me, but that I like a lot. And, until it starts to be painful and till it starts to do what it's going to do to me, I don't see what else am I going to do but go on living the way I want to live.
Well,
of course I have to do that.
There's no question about that, And I just, if anything I can do to keep your spirits up, and do the right thing. As I say, the hardest thing for me is to know what is the right thing to do. So I just go with my gut,
Well, what could you do wrong? Or anybody. Using you as stand-in.
Oh, I could stop calling you because I don't want to deal with it. Because I don't want to deal with it because people are afraid of dealing with something like this, And you may find that some people kind of back off because of the nature of the thing, and others people you never expected will be there for you. So, and you can't blame the ones who back off because some people, it's like I told people, some people said, oh, so-and-so never came to my mother's funeral. I said, don't blame them. They don't want to go to a funeral. They don't want to, that's something that so you can't hold it against them.
You're sliding into something that's really important for us to know and think about, is that all of our younger lives, it seems to me, when particularly really, really young, in my 20s and maybe 30s, or maybe it was the time, the era, I don't know. But people always made wonderful, I remember us making lots and lots of jokes about being dead someday or dying, and that we were terribly brave about it.
Yeah.
But I don't think we really understood it was real. When you're 20, you don't believe that. I believed for years and years and years that you were going to die and everybody else, but I'm the one immortal.
Well, this whole thing about she was so brave. She was so brave. Well, I want people to say he was screaming like a little girl. Because I wouldn't put up with it that easily. I'm not. You're doing better than I would be doing right now if I'd found out.
Listen, it's barely, the information is barely a week old, a week and a day. Yeah. I have I think that they don't know for sure, but they told me that if the chemotherapy isn't too rough on me, that it can slow the growth of the tumors enough that I might have 6 to 8 months of healthy life, before symptoms start to kick in. Mm-hmm. And so I forgot where I was going with that thought. It's back to not quite real.
Yeah. Yeah.
That how can you feel this good and be given a death sentence? I don't know. I haven't captured that for myself yet.
That makes no sense at all. Hey, listen, we've run out of time. I hate to say that now.
Funny, yes. Save that.
Well, Ronnie, your time's up. Your time's up.
The podcast after I die. Keep that in the back of your head. We've run out of time. Maybe that's my epitaph.
Yeah. Well, mine's going to be, I told you I was sick.
Yes,
so.
Of course it is.
Love you, Ronnie, and let's keep doing this.
Okay. Sure.
Really good, ladies and gentlemen. Ronnie Bennett, she's dying. Is that proper for me to say? But then again, aren't we all?
I don't know. Let's just experiment. Okay. See what happens.
It's a work in progress here, folks. Thank you, Ronnie.
See you soon.
Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is Gavin. the Great American Broadcast Network.
And that is my ex-wife, Ronnie Bennett, and she will be with us again in a couple of weeks. And for all the, I hope she's with us forever, okay, on this program. But whatever. We'll take it a week at a time, take it and see what happens, okay? By the way, I just heard from Tom Yamaguchi, who made a point that daylight savings time is still in force. You could fool me by how dark it gets early out there now, but when, Tom, does it change? That I don't know. So anyway, that's what an idiot I am. I've just become, today my mind is like jelly, okay? To begin with tonight, I couldn't figure out why we couldn't get, our playlist wasn't playing. And all of a sudden I realized, after trying any number of things, that it was because they were doing the sports show on Wednesday night. Now, we never do that except one day a week, and so I was an idiot, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with the network. And last night, I couldn't figure out why Jack wasn't doing his show, and then I after all kinds of going crazy and writing him messages by messenger, right? I came up with the answer. He told me he wasn't going to do his show last night because his wife was going to be in the hospital doing some stuff that she had to do, so anyway, that was so that last night I had that little mess that I introduced the show. It's going to be on right after me. I was an absolute moron about it, and so I'm so sorry, my bad. Anyway, I don't think it's not a cold. I have allergies in the worst way today, and I don't know what it's from, to be very honest with you. I can't, I guess there are, at this time of year, still allergies in the air, pollen in the air, and although the pollen rate is low, you can be subject to certain pollens that get to you, that are your specialty, okay? So, anyway, the Skype lines are open, by the way, if anybody feels like calling. I would certainly appreciate it. It's a fill-free night tonight, which means that a lot of you can get a word in edgewise, so give us a call. If you don't know how to call us, we use a thing called Skype, and if you go over to our website, which is gabnet.net, over on the right-hand side of the page, it'll tell you everything you want to know about Skype and how you can call this program using Skype. There's even a button you can click on that if you've got Skype up and running, will dial this show for you. So everything you need to know is over there at gabnet.net. And this is where I sit waiting to see if anybody is going to call. And if they don't, I keep waiting for the night they don't, and I can just sign off early and go watch some TV, right? I have all my shows banked up to watch. So anyway, oh well, here comes Jeff Stein. Jeff can always be counted on. Jeff is a good guy. Hi there, Jeff.
How you doing, man?
Yeah. So, did you hear Ronnie?
Yeah, I just unfortunately most of the end of it.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, it's a hard thing to just think about.
It's a hard thing to think about, but I think she's handling it much better than I would, So we'll see what. Oh wow, people are calling like crazy. All of a sudden, they're all calling like bing, 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 bang, 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 bang. There's Scott. There's Rob Alfano. He's not all in the dark tonight. Everybody's in the dark. Ronnie was in the dark. Charlene, how are you? Wow.
Oh, good. How are you?
Good. I noticed you were listening to the interview, Tom.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Oh well, I'll tell you, I can't imagine
what it would be like to know that that the end is within a couple of years.
Well, you know, it might happen to any of us. It might happen to that way. You know.
Yeah.
My father always said to me when I was growing up, he says, "I just want to be hit by a Mack truck." There was always that proverbial. Every time I see a Mack truck go by, I think of my father. And my father did die in like a week, so he got his wish. But a lot of us in our lifetime are going to have to face that kind of situation, although it creeps up on us. You know, you've got, we found a little cancer, but we took care of it. But then it comes back some more, and, you know, things like that. What she got, I mean, she got the worst cancer you can get, which was pancreatic. And they did this thing called the Whipple procedure on her. And they only do it on about 10% of pancreatic cancer patients because most are not candidates for it. And they got rid of the pancreatic cancer. Ta-da, goodbye, see you later. But, you know, once you've gotten cancer, chances you're going to get cancer somewhere else are very good, and that's exactly
it metastasizes.
Well,
right? My father had cancer.
This wasn't necessarily a metastasizing. This is just you become more prone to it, and they don't know if it metastasized or it spread from the pancreas, but for whatever reason, she now has it, and it's inoperable. Which I don't want to believe. Okay, I told her, listen, get a second opinion, come to New York, you can stay with us, you know. And she says, you know, I have the best doctors in the world here. These guys are world-class doctors. And she said, I don't want to go getting tons of other opinions from people and just find the same answer and waste my time. So, I mean, you know, it's her call. But if I were her, I would be doing a second opinion somewhere, you know, to see if there's some kind of, you know, I can't believe that in Portland, Oregon, there are better doctors than you're going to be able to find here in New York on the same subject matter.
You're right, Alex. There's good
Sloan Kettering.
Right?
I mean,
Sloan Kettering is, you know.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
You know, but
you know what? My dad lived in New York and didn't want to go from Long Island into New York City.
Yep.
I don't want to be bothered. So he dealt with whatever.
You know, my wife said to me when we were discussing this subject, she said, if the same thing happened to me that's happening to Ronnie, I wouldn't even go through the chemo. I just say it's time to go. Goodbye.
That's what I think I would do too.
You know, I swore my father died of lung cancer. It was in like 1983.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe he was young. He was only 55.
Yeah.
But I swore when I watched him go through the chemo then that I would never let them do that to me. But I don't know if the chemo is the same. Back then it was worse, I think. They had him on platinum or something. And
well,
you know.
I mean, they're going to put her on a very light chemo schedule, about once every 2 weeks. You know, it probably won't have a great effect on her, but will just keep the cancer from coming back.
I have friends that are cancer survivors. And this amazing guy that was my manager in a restaurant, he would go for chemo and then go to work in the restaurant and go to the gym and work out and everything. Chemo is a lot different than it was, I think, back in '83 when my father had it. It's not as debilitating.
That's
and they
part
have
of
patches,
it. Yeah.
Patches for the nausea and all that, right?
What were you saying?
That's part of it, but some of it is whatever kind of cancer you have, the kind of chemo that they treat you with, and then everybody's body deals with the effects of the drugs differently. So you're right, they probably have got better drugs, but it's depending on the cancer you have is the kind of treatment and drug they need to use, and then you know everybody's body handles it differently.
200,
right?
Tom has his finger up, but let me just say something first, and that is that, you know, 200 years down the line, we'll look back at chemo and go, boy, that was a sledgehammer to use on the disease. You know, we will come to a better understanding of the disease and how to handle it. And so let's say we cure cancer, all right, which is a very broad term because there are a lot of cancers. But let's say we know how to stop cancer of any sort, dead in its tracks. Then there's going to be something else that's going to come along and start getting us, you know.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, because, I mean,
Something's got to get you.
You're not going to live forever, and something's going to get you. It's like I'm a very depressing person. I'm the kind that gets up in the morning and says, "Well, what is it that's going to get me?" What? Oh, I have a cold. Maybe it'll turn into pneumonia. Maybe I'll die. Then I look at a friend of mine like my friend out at the Moonlight Bunny Ranch, Dennis Hoff, and Dennis I think he had a couple of hours of sex with a hooker, and the next morning he was dead. They found him in bed stiff as a board. So I mean, he's probably lucky.
What a way to go, Alex.
Yeah, what a way to go. And by the way, in the same suite that Lamar Odom overdosed in.
Oh, God.
So, yes, Tom had his hand up, and then Jeff.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say something else, but before that, I just to comment on your statement about chemotherapy. Remember, there was a time early in the AIDS epidemic when all they had was AZT.
Yep.
And now we have the protease inhibitors, and so it's a bit of really big revolutionary change in
There's
that
actually
disease.
I've seen a vaccine or something that it's on TV now that you can, if HIV positive, it can prevent you from being HIV positive or something. So they're making a lot of strides.
The point is where AIDS was concerned. In the very beginning, they were trying anything. They were desperate. They were trying anything to stop this horrible scourge from. We don't hear that. Do you? You're gay. You probably hang out in the gay community to a certain extent, Tom. I don't think you're a professional gay. You're not. I've never known you to be a professional gay guy.
I mean, I know a lot of gay people, obviously, here in the Bay Area. Yeah, and unfortunately, knew people that died of AIDS. But
wait a minute. Are people still dying of AIDS at the rate that they
years
once
ago?
Did? Huh?
I mean, I'm talking about the 80s.
Yeah, but I mean now, is that a death sentence anymore?
No, not anymore.
Okay.
And what Charlene was talking about was PrEP. Which is actually, if you use it, you can actually, it actually is acts as a vaccine. But I was just going to, my original point I was going to say was talking about Ronnie and being in Oregon. She's actually in the original Death with Dignity state.
Yeah.
So she's in that position where, and California just modeled its law past just last year. Because we had a resident that actually went up to Oregon to take her own life because it wasn't legal here in California. It actually passed a law based on her experience.
Yeah.
So it's something that's I agree. I think people should be able to take their own lives if they're if they're dealing with a lot of pain and it doesn't look like treatment's going to do any good.
Well, I'd like death with dignity, but I'm married and it's impossible. So, Yes, Jeff, you had your hand up.
Yeah, one of my good friends died of cancer the same time that Ronnie has, and he wouldn't tell anybody that he had cancer, and he was on a 3-month death plan, so to speak.
Yeah.
And finally his wife called me up.
Yeah.
And said, "My dopey husband is dying like next month. Would you come over and see him?" And I said, "Well, I keep calling him. He doesn't answer the phone."
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing?
By the way, excuse me if I blow my nose every now and then, but these allergies are killing me. Yes, Tom. I mean, oh boy, I'm so out of it. Tony.
Yeah, you know what I was going to say? I feel bad for you, Jeff, but I can understand partly maybe why he wouldn't want to say anything. Maybe he wanted to keep it private. Maybe if people find out something about somebody, then they maybe you want to get treated differently. Could that be it?
Well, I think there's a certain thing that somebody might come to the decision of, and that is, do I want to spend the last few months I have left talking about this and having people,
that's a good point. Like, I don't know if I would say anything.
When I walk into a room, have everybody have a sad look on their face, you know, or do I just want to do this and one day be dead? I'll tell you something that I found, you know, I mean, I find as I get older, I come in contact more with death, which for somebody who's afraid of dying is a horrible, horrible thing. But now I just had Dennis Hoff die of a heart attack, or it must have been a heart attack or something like that. I do know he was a major diabetic and had, I think, a few other health problems. But, you know, supposedly he went to the Mayo Clinic recently, got a complete workup, which you can get there, and they said, you're in pretty good shape. You know, there are no major things to worry about. Although if you looked at him, he was overweight, you know, a lot of things like that. But I think the point I'm trying to make here is you just, you know, you don't know when these things are going to happen. And I had a friend of mine, Steve, who was like my best friend, who died of lung cancer. And I was with him during the whole process. You know, he'd have one operation, then he'd have another operation. And, you know, he didn't look like a guy who was dying. To begin with, he had always been overweight, and he didn't lose that much weight, you know. And so we all figured, you know, oh, he's got another year or so at least before this thing gets him, and they'll keep operating on him, and they'll keep doing the radiation stuff. And, you know, all of a sudden I get a call, Steve's dead. He went to the hospital, and so we rushed up there, and there he was lying in the bed. I'll never forget it, with his mouth wide open, dead. And I had seen him the night before, and he just wanted to get out of the hospital. He'd gone into the hospital. He wanted to get out of there because he felt they were going to kill him in there, and that he just didn't want to stay in the hospital. And he had a lot of pep and energy. Of course, I had to, like, dissuade him of the idea of leaving the hospital. But I was so amazed by the fact that he was dead. You know, I figured, this is just another incident. He's got at least a couple of more months. But no, he died, and he didn't die looking like somebody who was going to die. Has anybody had that experience? Yeah. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze.
I just remember when my father died, you know, I thought that I always remember it was March. And like I was thinking that, you know, the better weather would be coming, and, you know, maybe I'd get like a wheelchair and roll him around somewhere, or, you know. Yeah. And then he never made it through like the winter, you know, he just, you know, that was it. You never know. I mean, it's just, you never know. When you're going to go, you're going to go.
Yes, Tom.
Yeah, when my housemate died back in 2011, that was pretty much of a shock. He said he was feeling dehydrated and tired, and I had gone off to work, and then I got a call from another housemate that he had just collapsed on bed and he was dead.
What did he die from?
The autopsy was pneumonia.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
How old was he?
He was 62.
Okay.
Jeez.
Well, you know,
but he was overweight. Very, very overweight.
Tom, how old was Dennis Hoff? Because you read all the obituaries. He was 72, I think.
72. 72. Yeah, 72.
Yeah. So, you know, he didn't make it to the average age, you know. I mean, I'm over that now. You know, I'm living on borrowed time. You know, I'm helping to raise the statistic a little bit.
You don't have diabetes or anything, though, right? Like,
no, that's why I keep wondering what is it that's going to get me, you know, because right now I don't have any major health concerns. I mean, I could suddenly come down with maybe a prostate cancer, but that's easily taken care of, you know.
Yeah, like the way Phil had that.
Because, you know, as you get older, your PSA rises, and by the way, most men do get what do you call it, prostate cancer, but it's not deadly. It's so slow growing that something else will kill you first. But, I mean, my heart seems to be okay. I go in, I get an EKG every year. The doctor is a cardiologist. He gives me a echocardiogram where it's a sonogram kind of thing, and he looks to see it. And I have a mild stenosis, but it's so small that he says if it keeps growing at the rate it's been growing, you'll be dead in about 50 years. So I mean, there's really not that much wrong with me, except I think this hay fever is going to kill me. I really believe.
It's bothering me.
Mine's been acting up this week too.
I've been sniffling all day. I've been blowing my nose.
Yeah, you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I got in at work. The guy said, "What's the matter with you?" I said, "I got allergies or something." He doesn't understand.
If I'm going to get these kind of allergies, I want to live in the country. Okay?
I do. Alex, when you went to Vermont, it looks so nice and peaceful.
Yeah.
I'm getting tired of it.
Isn't it the leaves now, like the dead leaves or something cause it? Like the dust?
I don't know. But today,
you live in the heart of a city, and there's all kinds of emissions and all kinds of irritants in the air. It could be anything. It may not be traditional allergies, just city crap that you're breathing in every day.
It could be. I went out today because I didn't go to the gym, but I got my exercise by going downtown and the subway not stopping at 23rd Street and then having to walk from 14th Street to 13th Street. And I put in a lot of time on my watch. I burned off about 400 calories doing that. And then I went to Italy, of course, and bought pasta. So, I mean, our little treat. Hello, Kevin.
Alex, Italy is still going, even though it's Mario Batali. They haven't.
Well, that wasn't just Mario Batali. So
there was other
quite
guys
a few
too.
other people. Yeah. It's the Bastianich rather.
That lady.
Lydia and her son,
mm-hmm.
Who's on Master Chef or whatever.
But they'll have to watch now. And I noticed that no one wants to mention Mario Batali anymore because of what happened.
Yeah. I think he still owns it though. I just think he's not. His face. They took all his sauces off the shelves there, and I liked his sauces. That was the problem, I don't care if he's a
orange clogs or not.
I didn't like him because I didn't like him before all this came out because he wears those fucking Crocs.
I know. I always kind of didn't like him for some reason.
Yeah, but his
he was very overweight.
His sauces
like
are pretty good. Anyway, hello, Kevin. How are you?
Hi, Alex. How you doing?
Yeah.
I just was listening to you guys talking earlier about Ronnie and stuff. I guess you had Ronnie on earlier. I missed it, I guess.
Yeah, but you can watch it on replay.
Yeah. I'm just bummed about that. That sucks.
Well, I was very bummed about it.
Well, it's kind of my friend. My friend up in Oregon also is fighting the ALS thing. My best friend. And he just got admitted into the hospital today, probably a couple hours ago, and he's fighting pneumonia right now, so it's not looking good for him either. And you guys were talking about the I don't know what you call it, the assisted suicide thing and all that.
Yeah.
And
they call it death. She doesn't like that term though. She hates that term. She likes suicide.
Yeah, what do they call it?
Well, it's called
technical term.
They call it death with dignity.
Whatever. Yeah. I don't even like that term because that seems like you're going to the vet.
Well, that's like saying handy-capable,
Yeah. Anyway, but they, when they were treating him, that was interesting. When I went up there to see him last month, they invited me into his neurology appointment, and I got to see a lot of that stuff. And they hold nothing back when you go into these things. But that wasn't part of the conversation. But when I talked to his wife and stuff, and that all that stuff is brought right up to the front. When they're going into their treatments and their psychological preparation, because he was given 2 to 5 to live. This guy's 54 years old and was just diagnosed last December.
Yeah.
And and all that stuff is brought right up front. Said, okay, here's what your options are. Here's what could happen. And he's at the point where he can't, he's eating through a tube and the whole bit. And this is only in the last less than a year that he can't even speak anymore.
Where does he live?
It's crazy. And this guy is a kid at 54 years old, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Where does he live?
He lives up in Oregon, by Lake Oswego.
Well, he can take the pill there.
Yeah, he can do all that. He just got to crush it up and put it into his IV.
No, well, either that or he can't swallow.
No, he can't swallow at all anymore. He hasn't. Last time I went up there last year on my 61, my 60th birthday mystery trip that my wife took me on. That's when he surprised me, and we saw him. For his first time in a couple of years, I guess. Well, saw him. I'd talked to him over the years, but we had some ribs when I was up there. I smoked some ribs for him, and that was the last meal we had, because in December of that year he choked on food, and then that's when they stopped him from eating food.
Wow.
And now he just
hey
I go
folks,
up there,
this is a very
I feel guilty eating.
Yeah, I'm sure this is a very uplifting show for our audience.
Yeah, I know.
But the fact of the matter is, folks,
it was starting to go up, and I came in and brought it down.
I used to do obituaries every morning on the radio show. Tom knows about this. I used to do the obituaries, and one of the things I used to say is, I do this every morning because we're all going to die.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I could say it jokingly because I was in my 40s, but now it has a lot more meaning. And the thing is that as somebody, I told Ronnie, God, we haven't been married for, when did we get divorced? 78, I think, was when the divorce came through.
She said 71, didn't she?
71? No. We broke up in 71. I think the divorce didn't happen until maybe... No, excuse me, you're right. It happened about 75 or 76. And she... but we, we stopped being married then. We didn't talk to each other for years. And then one day I came back from Europe and I gave her a call, and I'd come to a conclusion about something, that I had been a real asshole during the marriage. I mean, nothing I could prevent because it had to do with my own insecurities, but I felt she was owed an apology. So I called her up and I said, I want to have lunch with you. And she said, what about? I said, I just want to talk to you. And we had lunch, and I apologized. I said, I wasn't a very good husband. I cheated on you a lot. It was a problem with me, not a problem with you. And, I consider you a really great person, and a person who was very important to me, and I don't feel good about the fact that I hurt you, and if an apology will help, I hope so, And she kind of accepted my apology, and since then we've been friends, And what I said to her the other day, and I said it on this thing tonight, was that, we were married once, and in a way that makes you family. No matter what, even if there was a divorce, and but we did start talking to each other again, and you're family, and it's a very hard. I hate to be selfish about it, but how dare she even get sick like this? Because look at it's what my mother used to say. I phoned my mother once. I said, "Mom, I have sad news." She said, "What?" I got fired. She says, "How can you do this to me?" But now I maybe am beginning to understand that, to say to Ronnie, how can you do this to me? Come on, shape up. It's very strange, conflicting feelings that you have, Yes, first Charlene, then Tony.
Okay.
Oh, I just wanted to say, Alex, like Kevin said, last night I heard you talking about it, before I saw the show tonight. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know what to say either, but I just thought that the way she's handling it is the way I would too. Like, she's laughing and she's humorous,
Well, I mean, she's handling it better than I ever would,
Me too.
Yeah. You wouldn't handle it better, would you?
No, I'd be a real miserable, just scared, like, just a mess.
I would go. You know what I would do? I would go down to Costco, get me one of those scooters, and then start mowing people down.
You know what, though? If you've ever been close to it or had that kind of a situation, you never know that. You know? Yeah. I mean, Jeff,
I'm
maybe,
a pessimist.
maybe you've been close to that situation. You think about what you would do, but you don't necessarily do that when you get in that situation.
You know, you're absolutely right.
I was only
Kevin.
in that situation for a small amount of time, very small amount of time, but I never thought about doing that kind of weird shit.
You know something? What's strange, and then I'll get to you, Tony. What's strange about it, you're absolutely right, Kevin. I always thought of myself as a screaming coward, okay? You know, that if there was anything that I had to do that took some presence of mind and bravery, I would just collapse, all right? So we had an earthquake. The Loma Prieta quake took place in my neighborhood. Buildings are falling everywhere. My girlfriend is...
29 years ago today.
Is it really?
At 10:17 this morning.
Funny, I should bring it up. You know.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was 5:17.
4 p.m.
So how many years ago was that now?
5:04.
That's 30 years ago?
29 years ago.
29 years ago. Okay.
Yeah, they usually have the drill at 10:17 on 10:17. Yeah. That's right.
Oh, okay. Now I'll never forget it. So anyway, we're in my apartment. I had been up the hill, and then we came back down. The whole marina's in rubble. And my girlfriend, who I always thought would be the brave one in a situation like this, is going, let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Come on, let's get out of here. So I said, okay, come on, let's go to the... And I'm calm. I'm just, you know, there are fires everywhere. Buildings have fallen down. And I'm just like, easy peasy, come on. We get in the car. We go a block. I notice that people are assembled because the building has fallen down and they're getting people out of the building. So I decide, wait a minute, let me just stop the car for a few minutes here. I want to go see if I can help. And she's going, no, let's get over the bridge. Let's go to Marin. Let's go see your business manager. Let's get out of here. She's the one who's like going panicky. And I'm going, I want to help those people over there. And I never thought that in that situation I would react that way.
Yeah.
You know, finally, because she yelled and screamed enough, I stopped helping people, and I got in the car, and we went across the bridge. And she says, well, do you think it won't have another quake while we're going across the bridge? And she was always the one who was brave. Yeah. You know, she was the Rock of Gibraltar in situations. And I was the pardon the expression, pussy. Yes, Tom.
You talk about the bridge, reminded me, my ex used to be really paranoid about going on board underneath the bay because she says, oh, the earthquake's going to happen and we're all going to drown in the tube. And so what happens is the part was just perfectly fine and the Bay Bridge fell down.
Exactly. Yes, Tom. Tony. He's been having his hand.
My mom is... I have to walk the dog and my mother. I have to check on my mother because she just paged me with Alexa.
Well,
I'm sorry.
You can be paged with Alexa?
You know, she can't dial, so she could say, call Anthony Magno, and then hear her calling. So I hear her voice in the kitchen. I have one in my kitchen.
Well, the device is not called. Wait a minute, hold on a second. Before you go, the device is not called Alexa.
She's, where are you, Mom? In my room. It's ridiculous.
Are you listening to me? Tony, listen. Listen to me, Tony. Listen to me. It's not called Alexa. It's called Echo.
I know. Alex, I had to train her to do this. It was ridiculous. Come on. You know what I got to do? You're going to laugh at this. Oh, my God. She has a thing in her room I have to put on at night that makes a water sound. She can't sleep with like a waterfall. It's like, shh. I mean, come on,
some people need that.
I know. She's a one twister. I love her, but I can't take it sometimes.
Okay, well, you can leave. John Rockwell is shown.
I'll talk to you tomorrow, Alex. Good night.
Tony.
Bye-bye, Tony.
Bye, Tony.
Well, I came in because it looked like you needed a full house, but now we're losing.
Oh, wait a minute. We did have a full house, didn't we, with that? Yeah. With you,
I was your eighth person. Well,
with you, it was a full house. Well, wait a minute.
Well, it was for
no, it wasn't. We would need one more for a full house. Now we need two more.
Now we need at least one more person. Yeah.
But anyway, so let me see here. Oh, yeah, I was going to go to Tony, and then I went to Tony, and he said I have to go walk the dog and walk. One of these days, he's going to get really mixed up and walk his mother. Yes, Rob.
You know where I differ from you with this whole thing about fear of dying? I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid how I'm going to die. The worst possible. I mean, I don't give a rat's ass if I go to bed tonight and never wake up. I truly do not care. But what Ronnie is going through is my worst nightmare. Having to go to bed every night thinking about when is it going to start? How bad is it going to be? What's going to happen to me is far worse than the idea of death to me. Far worse.
Well, if you're worried, if you want to worry about death, the one that got to me was this guy Khashoggi, the Saudi, who was obviously murdered. I'm sure. Supposedly, according to the Turkish authorities, he was chopped up with a bone saw by a forensic expert. I wonder what the part of do no harm in medicine came to mind there. And supposedly, they didn't kill him first when they started cutting him apart.
Right. Cut off his fingers.
Did they?
Well, that's one of the stories said they started with his fingers.
Yeah. So whenever
Which sounds like torture. It sounds like your basic torture thing.
It sounds to me like they were torturing him. Yes, Tom.
Yeah. In fact, the Thayer thing was they specifically cut him off because that was he used to type. Which reminds me, have you ever been to the La Peña Cultural Center here in Berkeley?
No.
Well, there's a cultural center that was started by Chilean refugees when Allende was overthrown and escaped from Pinochet. They came up to Berkeley and they set up this cultural center restaurant.
Right.
But there's this mural over the top. It's a 3D mural across the top of the building, and it has among the pictures it has hands playing a guitar. Disembodied hands playing a guitar. And the reason for that is there was a very...
I know what you're talking about. Folk singer down in...
Victor Hara.
Victor Hara, yes.
They cut his hands off or something.
They cut his hands off and said, now you can't play your guitar. And so what he did is he led the whole crowd in song. I guess it was...
They had them all in a stadium. They'd rounded them up and had them all in a stadium, and he literally, without his hands, led them in song, conducting them with these stumps of hands. It's a great story. Years ago, I thought, why doesn't somebody make a movie of that story? You know, because what a dramatic...
I thought of that. That's what I thought.
What actor wants to get their hands cut off? Yeah, I'll do it.
Method acting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But today, of course, our boy, whose name has not been mentioned tonight, so why should I mention his name?
Trump?
Oh, there we go. Well, he said it. Well, you know, the only thing is Phil isn't here, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't start a tsunami. Anyway, he today, as part of his defense of the Saudis, said, you know, once again, as he did with the Chief Justice, the Justice of the Supreme Court, Kavanaugh. He said,
Chief Justice, that would be John Roberts.
Well, he's guilty. He's innocent. We say innocent until proven guilty, but he's guilty before proven innocent. That isn't the way things are here in America. He fails to remember that back here in New York, there was a thing called the Central Park Five.
Oh, yes.
And these were people that were accused of raping a woman. And he led the charge by placing an ad in the New York Times before there was ever a trial to prove their innocence, saying, let's execute these guys. Let's kill
bring
these
in
guys.
the death penalty.
Bring in the death penalty for these guys.
I remember
Now,
that.
this is the guy who today is saying innocent until proven guilty. Apparently, he didn't used to believe that.
Alex, they were later on found innocent too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, or at least they were finally, that the evidence was
he's still
faulty and they were released.
Yeah.
He still wanted them executed.
Yeah.
Even that?
Yeah. So it's a evil man. But anyway.
Oh, he's also that whole thing with that woman Pocahontas again with the DNA.
Elizabeth Warren, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and then he's going back and forth with Stormy Daniels, calling her horse face and everything.
But now the Navajo Nation wants Elizabeth Warren to stop. And there's
wrong.
Not her to stop as well. And
not the Navajo Nation, the Cherokees.
Cherokee.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Everyone's saying she should never have done it.
I don't think she should. I don't think she should have done it either. I think that it's
certainly not now.
Yeah,
this is the wrong time.
Right.
With all the things going on, especially if she was, whatever part she has. It's like,
let me ask
that's not important now.
Let
Wait till after wait till you're,
Let me ask you guys a question though. Here, I heard a discussion today saying that with the Kavanaugh hearings, maybe the Democrats and maybe the left wing went too far, with the rioting in the halls and so on and so forth, because what it did is it maybe turned some of the populace against the Democrats. And that was a time for us to kind of back off and kind of not make a big deal out of something. And all I could think of was, how do you do that? How, are you so wedded to winning elections that you want to give up your moral stance? Yes, Tom.
Yeah, I think that's what the Republicans want us to believe. I mean, they want to scare people off from being motivated, and that's the one thing about the Kavanaugh thing. We are motivated. The Republicans are not. They're trying to shove this narrative off that their base is finally energized, but they got what they wanted, and so they don't have any real motivation to vote. We're the ones that are motivated to vote because we see what's happening as long as the Republicans are in control of the Senate, and we'll get more Kavanaughs.
Okay, Brian, you're on.
Yeah, I just was made aware this morning, and I was peering through the Washington Journal, that there was this congresswoman in North Dakota or South Dakota. I think it's North Dakota. Her name is, I think her last name is Heidelkamp or something.
Heidi
Heitkamp, whatever. But nevertheless, there were some sexual assault victims who were rather unpleased with her having published their names, and or her campaign and her campaign staff have published their names and made their ordeals public, and they're wanting to seek charges and wanting to sue for her and her campaign staffers for having done that.
I didn't hear
and
about
she
that.
is a Democrat, so.
Yeah, she actually voted against Kavanaugh because she's way behind the polls. Unfortunately, she's the most vulnerable Democrat in the Senate, so she really had nothing to lose.
She's a senator. Okay.
Yeah, she is a senator, and she actually voted against Kavanaugh.
But nevertheless, they're pissed off, and I wonder how much the right wing is fueling and funding their campaign to dethrone her.
Yeah, but here's
a black mark, still a black mark.
Here's what I ask you, and it's a moral question to be asked, and that is that the Republicans have taken to saying that the Democrats are an angry mob. Now, believe me, I know Democrats, and if there were ever a bunch of wimps, it's the Democrats. Okay, the angry mob is it's ridiculous. But they're trying to portray us as an angry mob. So if we suddenly hold protests, are we fueling their argument that we're an angry mob? I mean, if I were black, should I stop eating watermelon? Because somebody might think that I'm stereotyping blacks. You get what I'm saying here? I mean, do you give up that which you believe because you're so wedded to the fact that, well, it might make the people get mad at us? that kind of turns you into an Uncle Tom of sorts, or at least a political Uncle Tom.
Yeah, but you could turn that argument around and say that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, lock her up and chanting, lock her up at these campaign rallies. That's what I call an angry mob. I mean, that's
well, you know, I mean, look, let's be honest about it. Donald Trump says everything about everybody else that he really thinks about himself. Okay, you know.
He's very good at deflecting.
Well, he deflects, but more than that, I mean.
Deflector in chief, DIC, Dick. That's exactly what he is.
There you go.
Yeah. But you get what I'm saying here. You know, he.
So I get what you're saying, Alex, and I say until we collectively, in spite of Phil's objectives, at Little Pudgy Ball's objective, and people like him, collectively embrace the tactics of Antifa and turn this into an uprising. And, you know, we start going all French Revolution, Marie Antoinette, we'll put your fucking head in a fucking guillotine, then we deserve to be called wimps.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the question is, how much do we wimp out in order to, say, win an election? Or is it going to win us an election?
We'll see.
I honestly believe if the Republicans believe there was an angry mob out there ready to kill them, I think they would probably acquiesce.
Oh, I'm sure they would. You're heading to guillotine. Go, and we're talking corporate Democrats too. They'd acquiesce faster than the Republicans would. So, like I said, until we start going, okay, Marie Antoinette on their fucking ass, then you know we not only deserve to be called wimps, then well, you know,
yeah.
But we'll also see what happens November 7th.
Yeah,
morning of November 7th.
What do you guys think is going to happen November 7th? 8th? What day is it?
November 8th, I think, yeah.
No, the 6th.
The 6th.
Well, that's what I'm saying. November 7th, when the results are tallied.
Yeah. The day after the election.
What do you think we're going to find out on November 7th?
Well, whether we take it over a house or not.
Yeah. I mean, no. I'm not asking that. I'm asking, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think?
Who knows?
Do you think the Democrats?
Who's going to even predict after the last one?
Yeah, exactly. You hate to go on a limb because, you know, there is that factor of those who will not say they're going to support the Republicans for fear of being chastised for it.
And you can't predict one way or the other, especially the other way that Democrats will win. Because of the old saying that you never dance on the motherfucker's grave until you're sure that motherfucker's fully dead.
Yeah, right.
Like I said, we'll find out November 7th at least.
By the way,
Did you see the thing on MSNBC about the white supremacists infiltrating, you know, underneath the Republican Party
headquarters?
You know, I forgot who it was, but they're doing it covertly.
How about the Proud Boys?
Yeah,
New York.
They're doing it really, really sneakily. You know, they're dressing nice and everything else. And
I would argue that they've been doing that since the Southern strategy had been implemented.
Well, yeah, but they're doing it a lot.
Now it's been ramped up to a different.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. What is this? I never heard this story. What is it exactly?
Well, I caught pieces of it this morning before I left, and it was an MSNBC piece that they did, or it was NBC, I can't remember which. I was getting ready this morning, and they were talking about the white supremacists that were a lot more sophisticated nowadays than they used to be, and how they're dressing up with ties and dressing nicely, and there was an actual, I think, senator or congressman or whatever that actually got elected, and they're slowly getting into the GOP and you know, becoming accepted, and one day they're just going to kind of pop out.
Okay.
They've already popped down the Trump.
That sounds disgusting, right there.
They're still there.
Purgings are helping it too.
By the way, the best.
Again, I just caught pieces of it, so I can't say a whole bunch about it.
The best tweet of the week happened to be the reply from Stormy Daniels to Trump about calling her horse face or whatever.
Oh yeah.
In which she then, at the end of hers, called him tiny.
Yeah. Mushroom.
Mushroom. And a question about bestiality. Seems interested in animals. Because he said horse. Because he said horse face.
But all I'm saying is, how good do we have to be? I don't think. I think if we were just completely above board, and the problem with Democrats in the past. No, the problem with Democrats in the past is they've never been willing to play as dirty as the Republicans, and maybe we have to play as dirty as the Republicans.
That's what Bill Maher keeps saying.
Yeah.
Yep.
I believe in it. I think that they have relied on the fact that we're wimps, that we try to be we try to stay on a high plane, and they can go as low as they want and kick us in the balls. Yes, Jeff.
I think one of the problems that we have as Democrats today, we don't have a direction. We don't have anybody in charge, so to speak.
We don't have a candidate to put up there in 2020. Right. We don't have any. What? We don't need it. We don't need Biden. We don't need Hillary.
At one time we said that, and we didn't have a candidate. And all of a sudden there was a guy by the name of Barack Obama who came along.
That's right.
Before that, we didn't know who the next Democratic candidate was going to be, and it was Bill Clinton. He came out of nowhere. So the chances are somebody may come out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, this come together shit isn't going to fly anymore.
I don't think, for instance, Elizabeth Warren has a chance of a.
No. I would have thought that 3 weeks ago, Alex, but not now.
Huh?
I would have thought that Elizabeth Warren had a chance 3 weeks ago.
I don't
think so. With all this shit that's been occurring, I agree with you completely.
Look, I'm going to say something, and it's not going to sit well, especially with Renee if she's listening. We live in a television age, in a mediaized age, and there needs to be something more that you bring to the table than just your thoughts and ideas. It's also a personality. Now, whether you want to admit it or not, Trump is a very well-schooled media personality, and so he translated that into becoming president of the United States. Elizabeth Warren doesn't have that going for her. She's not terribly attractive, which I know I shouldn't say that, but it counts in a televised age. Do you disagree with me, Tom? Because you'd be the guy on this panel who really disagree with me. But
I definitely disagree with you. Well, one thing I hate to.
I think that's what hurt Hillary.
I'm very upset that we're veering back into talking about the presidential race when the midterms haven't even occurred. We're looking for a savior, and that's what that really annoys me. I mean, let's worry about the presidential race after these midterms. But right now, we've got a lot of exciting candidates that, I mean, like Beto O'Rourke. He's really, I mean,
he's good.
If he
loses, he's really good.
He's really giving Ted Cruz a run for his money. He's forcing Republicans to put their resources into that campaign. Stacey Abrams in Georgia running for governor. I mean, I'm here reading that the early voting is in Georgia is just massive. I mean, in spite of attempts to suppress the vote, I mean, people are just coming out in droves and voting early. So I think we should be talking about and focusing on this election, because we've got a lot of great candidates, and we need to really back them, and then worry about the presidential race later.
But the reason I think we bring it up, though, Tom, is because this is a talk show where we discuss stuff, and that is up for discussion, even though you may think it's premature, but we really have to start thinking about it, because we need a stealth candidate. Obama was a stealth candidate. I thought, if I were to sit around and create a candidate who could win, I would invent Barack Obama.
Well, he was a very reluctant candidate. I mean, he was very reluctant to challenge Hillary Clinton, just like candidates were really reluctant to challenge Clinton in 2016. Yeah. They really talked him into it. No. And Michelle Obama, if you remember that 60 Minutes interview, she really didn't want him to run either because she was afraid he was going to get killed.
Yep.
Yeah.
By the way, I want to talk to Scott because all night he's been sitting very still there, and looks like a Rembrandt painting. Anything to add to this? I mean, who would you vote? Who, as a Democrat, who do you see on the horizon as a burgeoning star? Any?
Kamala Harris, senator from California. Mm-hmm. I think she's very good.
Yeah. Okay.
Alex, I was just going to say.
She took over for Barbara Boxer, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, you guys think that it could be a woman?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Doctor Who's a woman now, so why not? You know. And by the way, very well played. I think that we got into the notion of a woman. I think Hillary was maybe not the perfect idea, but I think there is a woman out there that certainly could do it. I don't think it isn't a question of, well, how much experience does she have? How much experience did Barack Obama have, as an example? He was a senator for less than 2 years, you know. But somebody who, and I sit here as somebody who watches the media, knows what the media is about. You need a person who is media. What's the word I'm looking for? Rob? Savvy? No.
Friendly.
Media friendly. Yeah, that plays well in the
media. IQ rating.
Looks
good.
Q
rating, exactly. Q
looks
factor.
good. You know, I mean, because let's face it, Donald Trump appealed to. No, he agreed to a thuggish, oafish bunch of voters, which is a large quantity of people in this country. You know, you and I, you know, I live in New York, and Tom lives in San Francisco, and John lives in New York, and you know.
We're not out where all those voters were.
We have no idea what it's like out there in Omaha. You know, we have no idea.
You have no idea what it's like out here in Jersey. Well, there's a lot of Trump where I am.
Yeah. Although out there, you've got a real problem. The Democrats may lose the Senate, Alex, because of that crook.
The only thing we have going on where I am is the Menendez and Hugen thing. And that tonight was on the news that Hugen is not going to, he's like 4% less than Menendez, they say. And now Menendez is furious because it got so nasty that they're talking about him and Colombian hookers and.
Well, my question is: do everybody remember Menendez and all the? He was actually went on trial, and I can't remember what it was.
But he was acquitted.
Yeah, but he went on trial.
Well, of course, they never mentioned that in the ad,
right?
In the attack ads,
he's angry about that, right?
Menendez did all these things. Well, didn't get you know.
Yeah. But that's all Jersey has going on. Do other states have like more exciting elections going on? Because this is not such an exciting year. But maybe
I sit over here. See, the one thing we get in New York, because everything sloughs off from New Jersey, is we get all the ads. You know, so I see all the ads against Menendez by the Hugen people, and there's some really good ones. You know. And basically they're portraying him as a crook. And if everybody remembers, there was a trial. So some people came away with the lasting impression that on some level the guy's a crook.
Out here they have the whatever those things are that you get at Staples with they put them on the lawn and everything. There are people going around like sticking like one in front of all the pro Menendez. They'll go ahead and stick one that's like, you know, says something horrible about him, you know.
Yeah.
It's a dirty fight, this one, you know.
Well, it's a good. All these any election in New Jersey is dirty. Are you kidding me?
And you know what I've noticed?
Who's this Menendez?
Nowadays, they don't even say who's Republican, who's Democrat. It's just Hugen, Menendez, and like they don't even, because I guess everyone knows, but it'd be nice if they would just mention the party a little.
No.
Yeah.
That's not just, that's in Pennsylvania too. I do that. They don't do that.
Yeah. Tom?
Yeah, I was just saying that all they have to do is play that recording of Trump talking to who he thought was Menendez, was some prankster.
Yes.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
How much he likes him and how he's happy he's getting, That's what I would do. I'd make sure that gets a lot of airplay there.
Yeah. But we're in such a mediaized age now that the candidate, I often said that in every age that we had a president, people running for the presidency, they had to have some quality that fit the media of the times. Like when Abraham Lincoln was running for president, you had to look really good from the back of a train. Okay? You had to have an imposing figure, the top hat,
the big hat,
the stovepipe hat, and supposedly his voice wasn't that good. Supposedly he was very high pitched, So he just had to have a commanding presence from the back of a train, and you could win an election. But then radio came in. And who won, was the biggest winner using radio? FDR with his very commanding voice, but you never saw him. Because if you saw him, he was in a wheelchair. And he, at times, didn't look healthy. But radio was his medium, and he was able to promote himself and make himself president through the use of radio.
Yep, fireside chats.
So then we go to the first television.
And we have Kennedy and Nixon.
And Nixon lost the election.
Lost a lot just because of the debates. He didn't look presidential. He looked like he was sweating.
There was an equal amount of people listened to him on radio as listened to him watching him on television. The ones who listened to the debate on radio felt that Nixon won the debate, and the people who watched it on television felt Kennedy had won the debate. But then again, he was.
And Nixon fucked with people on TV too.
Yes. Hello to Renee. How are you, Renee?
Good. I was listening.
Guess what? Full house.
Yeah.
Yay.
So
hey, by the way, before we go further, I put in an invitation for you to walkie-talkie me on your watch. Have you looked at your watch lately to see if it says I invited you, so.
I'm available for walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
Is that Zello, Alex, that thing?
What?
There's an app called Zello. That's
No. This is actual walkie-talkie. But anyway, I sent an invite to you, so.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll see if I can find it.
It should be on the watch. Yeah.
So I agree with you, Alex. This next person has to be media savvy, or at the very least, be appealing. And I'm not sure who that person's going to be, but I also agree with Tom. We cannot be banking on some great mystical person showing up and being our chosen one.
Well,
and that shit's not going to.
We don't need a messiah,
Yeah.
But I think the next person we have to realize in this mediaized age that we need somebody who plays well to that media and looks good in that media, and looking good's very important.
Somebody who has to energize young people to get out and vote.
Yeah, yes, John.
Well, one of the things. There are these people in various, usually in state conference, like state senators or state congressmen or whatever, that would be very good candidates. But nobody outside of the state knows who they are.
Yeah.
They have to start to get themselves in some way national publicity, and not by saying that they're 164th Indian. I mean, they have to get something more, somehow get into, because I don't know who the woman is you talked about in California. She may be wonderful. But if I don't find out about her until 2019, I'm not going to know. I mean, the people that are out there, the people are saying, well, like Cory Booker, he gets on all the time. He may be perfectly, I don't think he's the best person at all, but people know him nationally, and I mean, one of the reasons people are talking about Joe Biden is that, everybody knows who he is.
Yeah, but
everybody thinks he was given a wrong deal.
Biden's too old. And when we sit here and say Biden, we aren't thinking about the Biden baggage, you know. But once he would start running, they would bring up all that baggage. And, we can go back all the way to, like, the hearings with, what's her name, who went after the Supreme Court justice. Anita Hill. Go back to that and just show him at the Anita Hill hearings, and you go, I'm not voting for him. Yeah.
I think they're hoping Biden runs.
Yeah.
Republicans are, yeah.
Yeah.
Who had his hand up first, Jeff? Or
Jeff did.
Huh?
Well, I had my hand up first, but Jeff, I stomped on him before, so go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you. I'm very concerned about Trump surviving, and
concerned.
I'm not.
Because I'm hoping that he dies.
Well, thank you.
You and me both.
When he was saying surviving, he wasn't referring to politically. He was referring to surviving this orb.
The question is it strategically a good thing to start arguing with him and fighting with him, and is there a way to kind of destroy him before he gets the chance to vote again?
He's Teflon. The guy is Teflon.
It seems like, and so the reality is maybe we're better just by keeping our mouths shut.
And he has raised more money than any incumbent president already. He's got sick amount of money behind him already. Typically, incumbent presidents don't start raising money 2 years before the election. But he's been raising money for a long time, and he's got a big bankroll.
So Rob, with that problem, what do you recommend?
Moving.
Yeah, exactly. A little something in. We need someone on the inside to inject him while he's sleeping.
Well, I think a good idea would be move to Canada, because at least pot's legal there now. Yes, John Rockwell has his hand up.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Renee had her hand up first.
Please, Renee. Go ahead.
So this was back to Kevin. So, Kevin, is it possible that you heard this story? And this is the second time I've seen it, and I haven't vetted it yet, but it's still here. Armed protesters were on Portland rooftops. Armed people armed with guns that were not police officers were called Patriot Prayers, were stationed themselves on top of downtown Portland rooftops with caches of guns prior to the summer protest. And the police didn't stop them. And the police, by the way, these demonstrations were back on August 4th, just told the city officials within the past 24 to 48 hours. That wasn't the same thing.
No, the one that I was talking about was the Patrick Casey, the Identity Europa that's pushing their way into the GOP. I just sent the article to Alex.
Okay.
So we've had gunmen. So what do you guys think about this? So now non-police officers, non-military people are being allowed to sit on top of structures during protest and decide.
Is that their house?
From that
Are they sitting on their own houses?
Nope, they're sitting on top of public buildings.
No, but Portland has some weird shit going on up there during their protests. They do, because my friend's kid goes to them. There's some weird shit going on up there.
Is this Portland, Oregon?
Oregon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Tom had his hand up. Tom?
No,
Tom. John. Excuse me, John.
Yeah.
I'm punchy tonight.
Right. This is sort of a side thing, but I don't know if you was watching Rachel Maddow yesterday, and this whole story about the fact that the Gary Hart campaign was basically torpedoed by Lee Atwater back in the day.
Right.
He set everything up, including the monkey business boat, by telling the guy who had the original boat, oh, you can't use that. We got to use the whole thing. And Atwater, right before he died, told the guy, and I can't remember his name now, but who had been Hart's campaign person. He was telling everybody all the awful things he had done before he died, I guess, confessing his sins. But that guy did not tell Hart until recently, and that was 20 years ago, that he was told that Atwater basically sunk that campaign. And the reason he did is they said, by the time I got there, a couple of years after the campaign and everything, Hart was doing other things. He said, I didn't want to bring that up. It's going to be like, that's, but now this guy thought he was dying of cancer. He's been in remission. But before that, he went and told Gary Hart. But it was literally back then, the question that Maddow had, which I thought was interesting, is that if Gary Hart had been able to get through all that, and didn't have that happen, and had become the candidate and had won, what would the last 25, 30 years have been like?
Well, I mean,
who would have been president?
Yeah, but we always proffer that question. If so and so, this hadn't happened to so and so, and they had won, blah 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 blah. What would have happened if just here's one that's a little more closer to home? What if Al Gore had hung in there long enough to win that election? How would things have changed? We don't know. We really don't know.
No, of course not.
Would a Trump have even happened?
It's an interesting thought. It would have been interesting.
What would we look like if Gary Hart was actual president?
Yeah, had gotten through either 4 or 8 years of it. What would have happened later? Who would have been up there running against him? Would we have had either or both Bushes?
My question.
I'd like to go back what Jeff said. How do we do that to Trump?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a bigger question. We elected in this country a reality show host, a man of no particular ability for running a country, let alone a business. To be very honest with you,
since his dad pretty much financed all
his
his
entire image was created by television. And if you go back and watch some of those Apprentices, I saw a couple of scenes from some of them.
Oh, they're terrible.
No, but what you notice,
really?
How well, is how well they light him, how well they make him up. They make him look like the in-charge executive. That's the image America voted for.
And they voted for themselves.
No, they voted because they heard Donald Trump knows how to make money. He knows how to.
Wrong.
Don't forget, Hillary was not a great candidate.
No.
Yeah.
She seemed disingenuous. I'm sorry.
Than he did.
She helped him.
Wait a minute.
3 million more votes than he did.
That's fine, but they weren't the 3 million votes that would get you elected. That's the problem. Okay. So
got those votes
so what we have to say is her ground game wasn't very good. His was.
Those votes weren't dispersed through butt-fuck Sylvanias and butt-fuck counties across all the fucking...
Also, she may have won that. She may have swung those electoral votes if at that one debate where he kind of trailed her around like a shark. If she had looked at him and just said, "I think you should stop that right now," I think she would have won the election.
Sit down, Donald.
3 feet, jackass.
But
3 feet.
Really.
Yeah.
So, but the other thing we have to discuss with Hillary is the fact that I completely believe that she went British while Donald Trump went American. She was using all the old tactics from the Democrat playbook, and here came Trump just firing at will, hiding behind trees, and she fell like it was.
Yeah, it's a very good analogy because the Indians fought the British by simply hiding behind trees and shooting arrows at them and killing them. And they thought that was a rather uncivilized way to fight because you're supposed to get in the line and just walk forward and start shooting.
Well, you don't.
And
what
you do when you change the playbook from what somebody like Hillary felt comfortable with, she doesn't know how to handle it.
Yeah, but see, I'm not blaming her on that one. I'm blaming the jackass behind her on that, because he did all of the same little Bill, oh no, all the same fuck ups that he normally does, and it hurt her yet again. Look. And that gave them.
What I said is that whole election was the latest production of the movie The Producers. What if we do everything we could possibly do wrong? If we lose the election, well, I'll have a lot of money that I get to keep after it's over with. And also, I can probably start a news network. We can do a lot of things. And all of a sudden, it's election night. And like in The Producers, they look at each other and go, where did we go right? Mm-hmm. You know, he did everything that should have not gotten him elected.
So, but you have to say, except for Putin threw a shitload of energy at Trump. And that was, so you can't say this is 100% Hillary.
You know something? I think, Renee, to say that the Russians fixed it for Trump, and granted, they tried and they were in there meddling, but I don't think that's the reason she lost.
I know a lot of people who voted for Trump because they really believe that Hillary is crooked, and they said there's no way. Yeah, my brother is one of them, and my brother, he told me a year after he did it, because he couldn't bear to tell me, and then he told me like 6 months ago that he voted because he said,
"Does he have any regrets, Rob?"
Oh yeah.
See, my father doesn't yet.
But he's like, I just thought she was the biggest crook, and I didn't want to put this big crook in the White House.
Right.
But it was all marketing.
Yes, Charlene has her hand up, and then Tom.
No, I've just been trying to put my hand up for a while, because I always remember, Alex, that you were the one that brought it up during the election. Hillary had too much baggage, like all that Whitewater stuff and the Monica Lewinsky. Like this week, she did an interview. Where was she again, Hillary? They brought up Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah, and she stuck
they're
her
like
foot in
grilling
it.
her now about
Yes,
Me
she
Too
did.
with Monica
Right.
Lewinsky. In retrospect to the whole event now. And everybody hates Hillary again.
She needs to go away.
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We know.
Back to the forest.
By the way, we no longer have a full house. We have a royal flush now, because Jack
Not only needs to go away, she needs to take that bitch Nancy Pelosi and that asshole Chuck Schumer with her.
By the way, Jack, how's your wife doing?
I like Chuck.
Well, my wife is home.
What did she do?
Everything went fairly well. They found one little complication that they weren't expecting, but I knew she was okay last night when she said, "Hey, have you fed the cats yet?"
Well, then you know she's fine. You know she's fine.
And then when I picked her up this morning, she was saying, "You got here early."
She's doing great.
Well, I'm glad she's okay. Jack was a little concerned, because Jack's been through this before, and the last time he had a wife die on him. You know, and so...
I told Don, I said, you can't die on me, because pretty soon the district attorneys are going to start looking at me.
Yeah, exactly.
The first one that did it is the husband.
And you're a black guy, so it's going to be really bad.
You know, my bad was I forgot that you weren't going to be on last night.
Oh, and you said it.
And when I tuned in, I went, is he having trouble getting the show on? And I sent you a text, and you wrote back and said, no, I'm at the hospital. And I went, oh, my God, I'm such a fucking idiot. I'm starting to lose it. I got to start writing down notes a lot, you know.
Well, Alex, I hate to tell you this, but managing people is a skill that you only get by managing people. You know.
But what I've got to do is I've got to start, like with the movie Memento, start tattooing on myself all these notes to remember things.
I heard this conversation, though, and I had to call in about it because this is the only country in the world that has a two-step electoral process for its leader. That's bullshit, as my grandpa
said. Oh, it is. Absolutely.
Now we're stuck with it. We're stuck with it because the small states are not going to want to go along with a constitutional amendment to get rid of it.
Right.
But, we've got to tell people on the left, you got to vote like a beast. A good example, in Georgia right now, there's some black folks with Black Votes Matters that has some folks really scared because there were some news I read today. They are registering more people in Georgia and Texas than have ever registered this far.
Well, you know, I think we should take something out of the Republican vote playbook and say, you know, everybody vote and vote often.
Yes.
You know, 2-3
Chicago
times during
style.
Yeah, Chicago style. Yes, Tom.
Yeah, I was for Jack. I was just telling you earlier that the show earlier that the early voting is actually starting in Georgia, and people are just voting in droves.
Good.
Which reminds me, actually, did you hear about the bus? The Black voters
Just heard about.
and they pulled them over, and made them get off the bus because they were convinced that they had stolen the bus from whatever senior. It was like a bunch of older Black voter people, and it was like, oh, how are we sure you didn't steal this bus from the center?
No, so what I heard this whole situation is that all the people were at the scene. By the way, these are seniors. This is a senior citizen event. So there was a whole bunch of Black people, a whole bunch of voters at this event. They got excited. They could go vote because it was the first day of early voting. They got them on the facilities bus, and some stupid fucking Republican called up and said, "There's our bus that for our center is driving a bunch of Democrats to go vote."
Well,
it's not allowed.
You've almost got the story right, Renee. The story was Black Votes Matters had arranged for that bus to be there. The question was because they were leaving from a county facility. And like most counties, and I can't remember the county that it was in, and I should know because I lived in Georgia for almost 2 years. County facilities are not supposed to be used or be involved in electioneering. Now, but let's set the record right.
Yeah.
Kicking a whole bunch of old people off of a bus is just disgusting.
No, Republicans have always said, and you can find this on the internet, I think it was Richard Viguerie who said, we don't win elections by getting more people to vote.
Oh, yeah. That's
win elections by getting the right people to vote. And Democrats got to take the gloves off. Beto O'Rourke finally took the gloves off against Ted Cruz. I didn't see much of the debate between the two of them.
Called him Lion Ted.
Yeah, you know.
Ted chickened out of that last debate.
No. He didn't.
He didn't.
There's one this week. But, we got to start saying, hey, Donald Trump, he's been lying to you from the get-go, and he's lying to you today.
Hey, listen, we've run out of time. Time for you to go, Jack. You better get out of here so you can go do your show. But he's up next with The Intersection. Tom Yamaguchi, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Rob, always a pleasure. 2 nights in a row. Yippee, yippee, fuck. Charlene Martinez, thank you so much. John Rockwell, always great to see you. Renee, hello there from Hawaii. We got Jeff Stein. I almost forget you're in Hawaii because the picture is so clear that,
I can show you the sunset.
Scott Boddicker, thank you for being a Rembrandt painting tonight. Very nice. Very, very nice. Either that or a box of cigars, one or the other. Kevin, thank you, and thank you to Brian. All of you, wave to goodbye to our wonderful, wonderful people out there. There they are, the Citizens Panel, folks. That's it for us tonight. We're out of here now. This is the end of our little show, but Jack Bishop is next with The Intersection, and that will be followed very closely at 1 o'clock this morning by the fine people at the Connections, and then tomorrow night, 9:30, it's Damian Chaplin and, yes, you know it, The Exchange, and I'll be here again 10 o'clock tomorrow night. Same time, same station in life. In the meantime, if you see her, you know what to do. Tell her I love her, okay? Bye-bye, everybody.